Hi everyone, myself Dr.S.Dhivya, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce with Computer Application, working in Dr.S.N.S. Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science Autonomous. Today we are going to see the topic of tax invoice. Now we will see the meaning of tax invoice. Invoice is a document. It contains the transaction between the buyer and the seller. So invoice is just like a document. It's a document. The transaction between the buyer and the seller. The details are entered in this invoice. So the transaction between buyer and seller. Just we'll raise the question whether we need the invoice. Yeah, definitely. Just we'll have the example with this. When we purchase the goods for the household property, there are so many items we purchase from the departmental store. For example, if we are purchasing the chocolate or noodles or grocery items like this, we have the rate and the quantity on that product. So when we come to the home and we are checking all the items, whether we should know whether this pulses rate is this much of quantity we have purchased, whether it is then this much of rate. So with this clarification, first we need the invoice. It is just like in household property. When we come into the business, the buyer and the seller, they should definitely need the tax invoice. So I will give the description about how the tax invoice should be. So here buyer and seller's details should be mentioned clearly. This is a document, it should be accurate format. First, the tax invoice format contains seller detail. Here, for example, we have the seller name is Raju and Co. And they have to mention their address clearly. So in the top of that corner, there must be the details of the seller. Here, buyer detail. To whom we are selling the goods. So we should need the detail of buyer with proper address. And next, we should need the detail of in which date we are selling the invoice. So date is mandatory. In which date we are selling the goods to the seller, from the buyer to the seller, and we should note the invoice number also. So in the second left hand side, we have to have the buyer address, invoice date and the invoice number. The main thing we should know is serial number, description. What are the items we are purchasing or we are selling to the buyer. The description is important, and if it is worldwide, we should mention the HSN number. The main thing we need is quantity and the price per unit and the total. So for example, we have the example here. Seller is selling the goods to 100 gigabytes and the quantity is 10. The price for this quantity is 100. So we mention here. So they are buying this gigabyte. How much the quantity? Quantity is 10. The price value is 100. So the total is 1000. Right? So based on this, in between they have a slab rate of GST. Whether it is a central GST or the state GST, we have to mention here CGST at the rate of 5%. So 50. So total 1050. In the bottom, that will be in the total amount should be in the words, and finally there is the authorized signature of the seller. The main we have to mention here GSTN number. This is important for the tax invoice because both the buyer and the seller, they have to pay the tax to the government. So the main concept of the tax invoice is the buyer is Raju. Ram is paying tax to the Raju. So he has to claim from the government input tax credit, that is ITC. So if the tax invoice is accurate and clear information, then only the buyer can claim the ITC. Right? So likewise the seller is collecting the tax rate from the buyer, so the data should be accurately described in the proper format. If there is any omission or error in this tax invoice, both the buyer and the seller have the conflict between them, and they have to pay the penalty to the government, so they have to pay fine. So all the problem will be occurred. So all have to notices whether they have mentioned the GST number, PIN number. It is a 16-digit number, like PAN we have the number, likewise GST number. So this is the basic format of tax invoice. Students, hope you all understand how the tax invoice should be. So it's your assignment that imagine that you are the businessman, that is you are selling the product. So you are going to make a invoice bill and you are issue to the buyer. So you are going to write the description, number of quantity, price and the total CGST or SGST. You are make a tax invoice and you are going to submit it